to listen to the launch of the Good Spirit, Good Life tour. A little unusual, we chose to do the Welcome to Country after everybody's eaten. So before we do that, just some housekeeping. Some of you have already discovered the housekeeping, which the toilets are through the glass doors, but in case we have to exit the building in a hurry, the exit points are the green signs up there with a little person running, and the muster point is out in the car park. So if we are asked to evacuate, go through the door and congregate in the car park. I'd also ask people who've got phones to put them on silent unless it's urgent that you keep them on because you're working and you may get some calls. Joy's been going around taking photos, so those of you that want your photos taken, I hope you've ticked and signed a form. If you don't want your photos, just tell her when she comes around to do that. The other thing in terms of, I just need to put my glasses on here. Okay, we've got people zooming in from Melbourne and also from Broome and Canberra and Adelaide. So we're just waiting for them to zoom in, but we're going to continue with the opening of this event. So before we actually officially open it, I'd like to invite Elder Charlie Kickett, who's a Noongar elder and has been part of the Elders Governance Group, which has helped to guide and direct this project. It has been very, very instrumental in what you're going to be seeing today that Kate and Leanne will be presenting. Charlie's from Doodlakine. He's currently an elder in residence at the Mental Health Commission, WA, Association of Mental Health. He's also an elder with UWA, Murdoch and Curtin Research Groups. And Charlie has certainly worked very closely with Kate and the Centre for Aboriginal Medical Health, along with the other elders in developing this tool. He's also involved in the Rockingham Kwinana Council and schools, and he's got a huge CV and a list of things which is too long to go into, but he's very active in and across the urban community. So, Charlie, would you like to come up and do the Welcome to Country, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm not much taller than you. Okay. Put that out of the way. I just want to acknowledge our two brothers here. Oh, three. Can't forget her there. She's my brother. But any of you mob heard that little thing years ago on TV, black and white TV, we used to have Bill and Ben, the flower pot men? Well, they gone. We got Ken and Ben, the flower pot men here now. Okay. No, it's all good. They're doing a good job. They just need to continue till we get where we are, we want to be. Okay. And we got the likes of Johnny Ford, our CEO from Murridge Court. And we got a few mob from Murridge Court, my daughter-in-law over here. So I've got to be careful what I say. But I've been around, I think it took me an hour to get from that door up here. I'm talking to all this mob. And all my people, I go around Noongar country these days looking for a Noongar that I'm not related to. It's hard to find one. But I'm not talking to you Noongars. I'm going to talk to these mob from over east, even though they're not physically here. They're here, I think, looking at us. And all you Yamji, Wangai, Kuri, Nanga, Murrays, whatever, wherever you come from, okay? I'm talking to you, Mom. Even though you might have been here for 17 or plus years, little fella give me the thumbs up. I'm talking to you, okay? Now, in Yunga country, for you Yamaji mob, no arguments. To the north of us, it's Eniaba, the boundary. Don't you step over that boundary without a welcome. Go around to the east of us, for you Wonga mob, Southern Cross. Okay? Don't claim anything past Southern Cross. It's Nyunga country. You're stepping into Nyunga country. And then Wonga mob again, still you go right down to Esperance. Hey? Esperance along the coast nearly to the border. That's all our country. Okay? Just because Wonga mob moved in there because Wedgbulla built a town, don't mean it's your country. Okay? It's our country. It's Nyunga country. I just want to make sure that's understood. All good. But Wedgbulla messed us up, you know. But let me say this. Those boundaries, I remember as a kid, those boundaries would have been like the Great China Wall, or that one that Mr. Trumpeter, what he built in Mexico. So, you know, it stops people from coming across the border. We didn't need to build a wall, but our laws in place was good, strong enough to keep people out. And the people that crossed those boundaries had law business, had business, trading we did. So that was all good. The only ones that wasn't really welcome in was the ones that were running away from punishment. They run away from Nyunga punishment or Wonga punishment or Yamaji punishment, and they run into another country. But our old people would stop them and say, you got to go back and take your punishment. So our laws were strict. They couldn't come in. The lawmen they couldn't come across that boundary and do the punishment in our country. They wasn't allowed to. They had to wait for that person to go back into their country before they do that punishment. So that was our laws was pretty strong. But let me tell you, this land we sit on, this land that we walk on, we live on, we need to respect it. It's our mother. This land is our mother. Our Budja. And I don't need to tell, I'll tell you all the other mob, but not you Nyunga ones. When a lady gets pregnant, what do you call it? Say it loud. Budjari. You see the connection? Budjari and Budja. Okay? And if you're a Christian, you've got Christian beliefs, you go right back to creation. God made Adam and Eve. What did he make them out of? The dust of this earth. Our mother. You see the connection? Our practices, our law and culture is parallel with Christianity. So we have a tremendous respect for this country. Traditionally, when the child is born, the mother takes the placenta and buries it in the ground where the child is born. Strong connection to our country. Strong connection to our mother. When we leave our country, and I'm sure a lot of you old people have felt it, when you get taken off your country, for a while you're okay, then all of a sudden you might start feeling a bit mindage, a bit sick. And I found the best medicine for that was for me to go back home to my country. And I come from the center of the universe called Doodlakine. Okay? It's the greatest place on earth. My sister Geraldine up the back, she'll say Brookton. And your other mob might say where you come from is the center of the universe. But not really. Doodlakine is it. Is a true place. Okay? I'm part of the stolen generation. Me and my brothers and sisters were taken away and put in a mission. Because of whitefellas' impact on our culture, we were denied to actually learn our language and culture really solid. But we learned bits and pieces of it. And I learned enough that I can survive on my country now. If I go out bush, I'll live there. And I can survive. I only need the young fellas to catch the kangaroo for me, that's all. But all good. Okay, this is lovely country. So I'm going to just say a little bit in my language, Noongar language. And my connection to, I've got connection to Wajak today, this is what's today, to Wajak, Baladong and Nalakala Wuja. That's my connections. But I've got family all over Noongar country. All over. You truly can't find a Noongar I'm not related to. And I want to respect my two old aunties over here, the Miller sisters. You go down to Albany, you hear them say Miller. You know, that's the dialect difference. But yeah, all good. Lovely. We've got a beautiful country. That's why these mob come from over east and up north. They come down here to the west. Because the best is in the west. Okay? Okay? Even the Dockers and Eagles. But anyway, Kaya Wanji. Ngan Yakur Girman. Maman Yoga. Birdies. Wagi Yining Yunga Buja. And all I said in my language was, hello, welcome. My heart is happy that you're men and women. And the bosses, I've got to always acknowledge the boss. I'll get that there. But always acknowledge. And I want to acknowledge our elders, past and present, especially those who've gone on. But the welcome is for you, all your mob who come on Noongar country, don't really belong here. Okay? It's a warm welcome. To the you mob from, you Gregory mob from Geraldton, you know? Who else can I pick out? You know? But I might ask a name, I'll forget it in 5 minutes, I'll walk away, I'll forget the name. So, yeah, but it's good. So enjoy this time. What's this? Launch is British wearing. Huh? So keep that British wearing. Take it with you and be good and stay safe and healthy. Okay? Thank you. Don't forget Doodlakine.
Thanks for that, Charlie. So thank you very much for that wonderful welcome to country, Charlie. And before I hand it over to Leanne and to Dr. Kate Smith to introduce the Good Spirit, Good Life assessment package, I just also want to acknowledge and welcome the Honourable Ben Wyatt, MLA, and also the Honourable Ken Wyatt, AM, MP, and both Ben and Ken will be speaking after Kate does her overview. So Kate and Leanne, do you want to come up and... Leanne's also a Ingada Yamaji woman. Did I get that right? Ingada? Ingada. There you go. See, even I struggle with words sometimes. Yamaji woman. So Kate and Leanne, if you want to come up and introduce the talk.
Oops, sorry. Thanks, Uncle Charlie, for your welcome to country. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Noongar Budja today and pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging. Thank you to all the other elders here today for coming along and supporting our launch. Kate and I are just going to give a brief overview of the Good Spirit, Good Life study and our assessment package. We're really proud to share that our quality of life assessment has been developed for and by Aboriginal people, and it's the first of its kind both in Australia but also internationally for Indigenous peoples. So our work's been completed through the Centre for Aboriginal Medical and Dental Health, and funded by the NHMRC ARC Dementia Development Fellowship and Post Grant. The name of the Good Spirit, Good Life project comes from our participants who expressed to us that having a good life is dependent on having a good spirit. So if I can just read out this quote, if our spirit's broken, we become sick. Our spirit's sick. And how can we heal it if we don't have that quality of life? So that was from one of our participants. So the Good Spirit, Good Life assessment package has been developed to address this. Our assessment package has been co-developed with, in partnership with Aboriginal elders, researchers and service providers, both in Perth and Melbourne. So this slide is just a summary to give you an idea of how many people and organisations have been involved along the way. So I'm just going to go through the development of our framework, which is the centre diagram here, and it's pulled from our interviews and our yarning groups and advisory groups, all the information that we gathered along the way. So there's 12 factors that we've identified as important to having a good life, and these all correspond with a question in our assessment. So there's an overarching theme of connection to the inner spirit, and that helps to promote healing, protect and strengthen the spirit and overcome barriers along the way. There's also interconnection between all of the factors, and that's represented by the yellow circle that connects all the 12 factors together. So I'll just run through all the 12 factors. So firstly, the importance of family and friends and spending time together and having a yarn. Connection to country, and that might be just being able to yarn about country or being able to return to country and spend time there. We have also the importance of the connection and belonging to the community, the Aboriginal community, but it might also be another community that you're a part of. The importance of being able to connect with cultural activities and attend cultural events was expressed as really important. And also just maintaining and managing your own health needs so that you're able to fulfil other obligations in life. Having respect from others, particularly the younger generation, was identified as really important. And being able to fulfil obligations through the elder role. So sharing stories and knowledge with the younger people. Supports and services, being respectful and safe to access. and safety and security, so just feeling safe in where you live. So also connection to the spiritual, being able to express spiritual beliefs, so these could be personal or cultural, religious beliefs. And also being able to plan for the future. So this could be related to end of life wishes, tying up loose ends, and a lot of people talked about having funeral plans as well as being quite a big thing to think about towards the end of life. And lastly, just making sure that your basic needs are met, so having enough money to get by for food and housing and clothing. So these things are all really important and expressed through our interviews and yarning groups by our elders. And so we've just got a few quotes here that I might read out a couple of them. So first one, I think family is the most important thing of all, to make you want to live on longer and make you want to look after yourself for your children and your grannies. And we've got to have access to our youngsters to be able to teach them the old way and to make sure we don't lose it. And lastly, services need to understand that they need to include family members around them when you're growing older. So I'll hand it over to Kate now.
Hi everyone. We developed the tool with the elders, and like Leanne said, there were 12 different factors that are really important to older people in living a good life. But we also, kind of as researchers, we had to do a bit of a validity side just to show that the tool does assess what we say it assesses, which is having a good life, a quality of life, in other words, which we're in as well. And so we do this by looking at the validity of the tool. Known groups validity just means that the tool does differentiate between people with different health conditions that you think it should as a quality of life assessment. So we found that it did differentiate between elders with anxiety and without anxiety, and elders with depression and without depression. And that's what you'd expect from a quality of life tool. Like if you're anxious or depressed, you're less likely to think your quality of life needs are being met. So we did refer a lot of people on also for health support as well, because obviously we picked up some people with different health conditions. We also looked at concurrent validity. That's just when you compare a tool to another tool that's being used, a gold standard, but because this is the first tool for Indigenous peoples, older people internationally, we couldn't just compare it to, there's no gold standard, but we did compare it to tools that are currently being used by health services and aged care services. They're non-Indigenous specific tools. And that's the IceCap O for older people. Our feedback from the elders, the questions were a bit winyan, they're a bit not a bit silly or not appropriate really. It did correlate fairly strongly with our tool, but the questions with Good Spirit, Good Life were more readily accepted because they were developed by the elders. And the EQ5D is another one you may have heard of. It's used in a lot of health services. It's quite deficit-based, whereas Good Spirit, Good Life is strength-based tool. So it was fairly weakly correlated, but it does pick up things like pain and falls and things that you need to pick up as a health service as well. So we're not saying don't use it, but you may want to use the holistic Good Spirit, Good Life tool, which is really picks up what's important to the elders, and also the EQ5D may just give you a bit more health-related information specific to whatever the health concerns are of the elder. The factors that were associated with quality of life or having a good spirit, good life, so people who got a better score on the Good Spirit, Good Life, they had higher resilience. It's using a tool developed by Graham G, who works at VARS in Victoria. He's an Aboriginal psychologist. and that people tended to have lower anxiety, which I suppose makes sense. But so you had a better quality of life if you had lower anxiety as well. And then we looked at all the questions to see which ones were best or most indicative, I suppose, of having a good life, muditshwa and good spirit. And those three questions, they were all the elders always say to us, they're all interconnected, they're all important. So don't think that these are the only important ones. They're all important, but just quantitatively, when we looked at the numbers, these ones matched up the best. And so that's respect, having respect from others, being able to fulfill the elder role, teach the younger ones about ways of life and cultural things, and culture, so cultural identity and being able to attend cultural events as well. And then we also looked at this figure here. It just shows you the kind of the mean score, the average scores that people, we saw 120 people, around Perth and Melbourne. And there was one question that was significantly different or lower score than the other 12 questions, and that was connection to country. So even though elders told us, and Charlie and all the elders tell us how important connection to country is, unfortunately a lot of the elders felt like that was an area of unmet need, if you like, so that they weren't feeling like they were getting enough support for connection to country. So that was the kind of numbers side of things, I suppose, and it showed us that the Good Spirit, Good Life tool is a valid tool for service providers to access and utilise. So for all the service providers, watching us over East and from Broome and the service providers here today, would really encourage you to incorporate this tool into your current practice. And the framework as well can help shape, for policymakers as well, it can help shape service delivery really. If you know what's important to the wellbeing of elders, hopefully then you can shape your services to really hit on all those 12 areas that are important for a good spirit. Also, and it can be downloaded for free, from our website. So if you have a look there, the website's there. It's gone up, well, it went up last night, I think. Alex put it up. So it's free to download. We do just ask for your email, but it's not, we don't do anything with it. It's just if we make changes to it. Like Dawn just said, I have to put a copyright on it. So it's free, but it can be, that's all, just so we can send you the latest version. So hopefully having to put your email there doesn't put anyone off from using it. But yeah, we won't ask for any money or anything around that. So we just say as well, to let you know they're all important, all the areas, but please start thinking about connection to country and how you can better support the elders who either your family, within your family, who you care for, or within your service. And we do have recommendations. So the elders, at our first elders governance group meeting, the elders said, don't just give an assessment tool. We want to be able to give recommendations, that actually strategies of how to improve different areas if our needs aren't being met. So that's part of this package that's in there as well. Also, if you improve the spirit and life of Aboriginal older people, hopefully you can also build resilience and reduce anxiety and depression. So there are health benefits as well from doing this. And the tool, once you assess someone, you might see they're having an issue in one area, then hopefully you can work on that area and you can look in 6 months and see if that's improved for the elder as well over that time. So within the package is the assessment. There's a carer's version of the assessment in case one of the older people have problems communicating. You can ask their family member the questions instead. There's a framework to shape service provision, the elder informed recommendations and strategies, and an instruction booklet on how to use it as well. So we would just really like to thank everyone for their support. The tool, I'd like to say as well, the tool is being developed with people from urban and rural areas, but for people living in remote areas and Torres Strait Islander peoples, we'd have to, make sure that it was appropriate for them, and there may be some differences in the use of the tool for people from different areas, from remote areas. But yeah, we'd just really like to have your, thank you for your support, and we just hope it'll be widely used. Thank you. Yeah, Barbara, do you want to? Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I tried to explain it, Barbara, you're right though. Yeah. 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 Thanks, Barbara. I do try and explain, but yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Hopefully, if anyone wants to ask any questions afterwards as well, come and have a yarn and be happy to chat. Yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for that, Kate and Leanne. Yes, it's as researchers, we always have to remember to pitch our presentations at the level at which people can also understand. So it's a work in progress, and we're open to good constructive feedback. Thank you. Okay, so that's the presentation. I'd like to now invite the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs and our Western Australian Treasurer, the Honourable Ben White, MLA, who will talk to us about, I don't know, what are you going to talk about, Ben?
Whatever you like.
Okay, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Whatever you want, Dawn, I'll speak about whatever you want. Doodlakine is what I'll speak about this afternoon. I'll never drive through Doodlakine again without thinking of you, Charlie, and the centre of the universe that Doodlakine in the wheat belt clearly is. Charlie, thank you for your welcome. It is a delight to be here in my electorate of Victoria Park. This is a very special part of my electorate. I regularly, well, I'll pretend regularly, go for a run along here, and I either cross the Matagarup Bridge or Windam Bridge to then huff and puff my way home. But this is very special country, and for those Noongar people who will know that off that end of Matagarup, otherwise known as Harrison Island, after the French sub-lieutenant who was on Nick Bourdin's expedition in the early 1800s, is very good bream fishing. Very good bream fishing, it still is to this day. Very special country, so thank you for the invitation. Ken, who'll be speaking after me, I assume, good to see you. Leanne and Kate, thank you very much. It is hard. I've sat through a lot of presentations from academics who try and explain the process, which, if I can summarise it, Kate, I'll try, which really just means that you have to go through a lot of effort and a lot of tests to ensure that what you are saying is true, if I was to summarise what Kate said. And that is the effort that went through, that Kate went through and her researchers went through in respect of ensuring that we understand what has been achieved, and that is understanding how do we build resilience in Aboriginal people. Good spirit, good life, I think highlights the point, something that we've always known, and that is our physical health isn't just dictated by what we eat or how much we exercise, but in particular for Aboriginal people around those three areas, the highest correlation. That is those three things that are most important around respect, around the role of elders, and around connection to culture. And clearly that research highlights the fact that people don't feel as though connection to country is strong enough to enable them to get that strong connection to culture. And to a certain extent, this is something we know. You can't have government policy for the better part of 150 years that it was designed to remove Aboriginal people from their cultural connections and then expect in the space of 30 years Aboriginal people's spirit and health to recover so quickly. And that's what we need to understand and learn from these sorts of projects, and also the fact that, incredibly, very rarely, we have access to this assessment tool online. Kate said she won't be asking you for money. That's my job. Won't be asking you for money. But this is actually something that's very important, because there's a lot of service providers in this room. Ken and I have just gone through a long process around closing the gap. That has been a partnership with Aboriginal service providers across the nation about understanding what is it that builds resilience, what is it that builds a strong spirit, and what is it that builds strong health, physical and mental. No government has the knowledge about this. This is something that we need to learn from Aboriginal people and from Aboriginal cultural practices that go back a long way. It is amazing that we stand here in July when, if you'd asked me in March whether we'd have a group of older Aboriginal people in the one room by July, I would have said no. And the coronavirus has highlighted a couple of things, I think. I think it's highlighted the fact that when government responded, how do we protect Aboriginal people, in particular in regional Western Australia? What is it we can do to ensure that they are looked after the most? We actually try to move people back on the country, to remote communities, to regional towns that people are from. And I think that highlights the fact that over the decades there has been an effort by governments, conscious sometimes, usually subconscious, to try and remove or demean the importance of being on country, putting everything into that economic prison that often I'm asked to do as Treasurer, and not value the connection to country. And we are seeing already, and it's statistics I am ensuring that we gather at a state level, that when we had people back on country, where you had communities that already were full of people, houses that were already full, and we put more people back into those communities, what we have seen, the outcomes, whether it be health or crime or antisocial behaviour, have all improved. We need to understand why that's the case. Certainly from Kate and Leanne's presentation today highlights the fact that bringing people back to country, connecting them to their culture, respecting the role of elders, does have a very rapid impact on how people live their lives. And we're seeing that from the data that we're getting out of, I guess, the response over the last few months around the coronavirus. So that's why this information is important for governments, to how we go about developing policy and supporting communities and supporting Aboriginal people. And it's one that I'm sure will continue to help the many people who are here, who are on Zoom, all over Australia, in how we go about advising government, working with government, and importantly, understanding that it's not government that has the solutions to all the issues that we face. People in this room, those service providers, are fundamental. So congratulations, Kate, Leanne, UWA, all those who have been involved, the elders who set those key questions to ensure that the answers we got could be tested and the conclusions drawn with confidence and rigour. These things aren't easy to do. So I want to thank and congratulate all those who have been involved over what has been clearly an extended period of time. And thank you for the invitation to be here this morning. Ta.
Thanks for that, Ben. Just to highlight that, my running sheet's gone. That's okay, I need it. I think one of the important things about this tool, as Ben has highlighted, is that it's been validated. What that means, it's been tested to be correct. And government and funders always want the evidence. They want evidence-based tools to show that something works. And that's one of the good things about the Good Spirit, Good Life tool, is that we have the evidence. And the evidence is also now consistent with evidence that's coming from other parts of the country around what's important for Aboriginal health and wellbeing. So I thank you for that, Ben. I'd now like to invite to do the official launch of the tool the Honourable Ken Wyatt, AM MP, who is the Minister for Indigenous Australians and a member for Hasluck. Minister.
Kaya Wanju. Dawn, thank you for that welcome. I want to acknowledge Uncle for giving us that welcome to country. I know Doodlakine is supposed to be the centre of the universe, but my mother was in Roland's mission. I was born down there, so Bunbury's got to be the place. But I also want to acknowledge Dawn, Kate, Leanne, and the other researchers who were involved, the young ones I met earlier. And what I saw is the quality of our youth coming through. And it reminded me of a conversation I had when I was in Alice Springs after the young fellow was shot. I was sitting with a 19-year-old. And as I was talking to him, I asked him a question about what's one thing that you want in your life? He said, my culture. But he also said, I want to be told that I'm loved. And that really floored me. So when I look at these 12 points of importance in our lives, it reminds me of that conversation. And in co-designing with our elders and with all of you in this room, what we've done is we've gone back to where we were a long time ago. When we used to sit as families, as community, where we didn't fight with each other then. We had our arguments, family squabbles, but we didn't have lateral violence. We had a system connected on respect. Respect for each other, respect for the wisdom of our elders. And when I look at what you've produced out of the work that you've done, you have taken the fundamental principles that were always important to us. You have taken the basis of why we have survived for 60,000 years plus. And you reminded us collectively that we need to sit and listen, that we need to have those yarns about what are those things that impact most of all for each and every one of us across this nation. To all the people on Zoom, you are as equally part of this process because our ways of doing things have not changed, but there are external influences that have impacted on us. And if we go back to what I see diagrammatically represented, that's the foundation stone of how we've always been. So I want to acknowledge every elder who's contributed to the development of this framework. We can assess, but we have to be mindful of what's important to every individual. We have to consider, if we make that assessment, then what do we do next? How do we help someone who needs support? How do we deal with the issue of country respectfully? And Uncle, when you talked about the biblical element, I thought of the book of Genesis, first chapter. It really is the parallel of the dreaming and the creation of our culture, our way of life, and our principles. And when I look at promote healing, strengthen, overcome barriers and protect, those are the things we've always strived for. It was good to see my old friend Jerry Hayden here, because Jerry and I used to talk about these things when we're in education. What is the fundamental basis that we have to get back to? How do we protect future generations, and how do we plan for the future? And we can't do that by ignoring our culture, our past, and the policies that have impacted on us. Ben was right, and it's good that Ben is here, because his contribution at the state level helped make my task easier here in WA. And the reform agenda that he's driving means that we will see changes of direction that will fit within this framework. So this framework shouldn't be just seen as good spirit and good life. It should also be seen as good culture, good foundation. And Kate, I remember that first discussion we had at UWA when I first met you, and I was told that you were a very talented young woman who was prepared to carve a pathway in the aged care sector and in looking after the needs of the thinking that was associated with us growing old. And at the time I was interested because I'm heading down that pathway. Because ageing will impact on all of us at some point. We never stop moving towards that point in which we need somebody to care for us. So I want to congratulate everybody who has been involved in developing good spirit, good life. Because if we take every one of these and we go back to the foundation, then our strength should see us go for another 60,000 years easily. And what's important is we support each other in that journey. That we have our differences, but we also put out a hand to help those that need that hand. It's not just ministers that do that. It's us as Aboriginal people within our communities, wherever we live, whatever we do. Sometimes I think that we have become selfish and we think of the I instead of the we. This takes us back to the we and us of our community. And that's the most important message that I see in this diagram. So congratulations to all. And Charlie, I agree with you. There are bosses in our lives we have to listen to. Both Ben and I have a boss in our lives that tell us what we can and can't do. But they do that because they care and love for us. I want everybody in this room to become a boss for those who are in their families. Love and care for those who need a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to cry on, but a hand they can hold and celebrate every one of these key points, because they are an incredible foundation for a journey of strength amongst our people into a better future for our children, but more importantly, the impact on our community. So congratulations to all, and it gives me great pleasure to launch Good Spirit, Good Life assessment package for older Aboriginal Australians. Well done.
Thank you for that, Minister. Very heartfelt message and a very heartfelt launch of the package. And that concludes the formal aspect of the launch of the Good Spirit, Good Life tool. There's tea and coffee up the back, and please feel free to mingle, keeping your distance. And I'm sure the minister, both ministers, will be here for a little bit if you want to talk to them. Thank you very much for coming.